All right, boys and girls, so now what we're going to do is we're going to paint our dove with warm colors of watercolor paint. And what we're going to do is you're going to create almost like a watercolor wash. And this basically makes the paint blend a little bit more. I'm going to use yellow, orange, and magenta. And the best way to blend is to do a wet on wet watercolor technique where you wet the background and then you add the colors to almost create a tie-dye effect. And you want to make sure that you're holding your paper still and that you're constantly rinsing your brush in between colors so that you can go back and forth. And you want to wet the surface a little bit, but not too much, so that it doesn't go outside your Sharpie line there. But if it does, you can always Sharpie it up after. So make it a thicker line. So don't worry about that. But what you want to do is you kind of have to work consistently and a little bit fast so that it blends. So you want to water the background, add a little color. I'm going to kind of make almost like a sunrise feel here, and then I'm going to keep the magenta. If you want to keep the same color, by the way, I'm leaning my hand onto the paper to keep it steady, okay? So you don't want to have your hand in the air. You always want to have it leaning on the paper, on the dry area. And if you want to make it a little darker, you can add a little bit darker. But I'm going to go do this kind of like sherbet sunrise feel. And now I'm going to wet the bottom. And when you're using analogous colors, those are colors that are similar on the color wheel, like warm colors, your reds, oranges, yellows, magenta, even brown. When you blend, it is an easy transition because there's a harmony to using all the warm colors together or all the cool colors together. Analogous colors you can blend because they won't create a brown. They will blend really beautifully into each other. So what you could do is, you see how it's still wet. I'm working back into the magenta here. And the idea is you don't want to see lines. You don't want to see lines in your painting. You're kind of almost like making it look like a tie-dye effect. So you have to work quickly, and you want to wash the brush in between each color. It's fine. If you have too much water, you can just dab it with a paper towel. You're going to want to keep a paper towel on hand, because as soon as you put the paper towel on, you just want to make sure that you press on it and that you don't rub it. So this background's already nice and wet, so it's going to really be a really nice blend, easy to blend. So you want to make sure your background is wet, not too much. Again, if it goes outside the dove, you can always rework the border with a Sharpie just to thicken out the outline. So don't worry about it if you go outside the line. I see that I went outside the line a little bit myself, and I'm really not worried about it, because all you need to do is make the line thicker. So now I'm just going to go in and rework my colors. If you just paint, you let it dry for like a few seconds, you can actually unearth it just by, you see how I'm going over here and I'm rubbing it just to kind of unearth the colors, to spread them out a little bit more. And then you can go back if you want and kind of make the colors a little bit more saturated if you want, because I actually think I want to make this orange just a little bit brighter. But you just have to be careful when you're blending that you do it quickly and you go back. I'm leaning my hand on the painting, but at the same time you want to make sure you don't smudge it. So you can rotate your painting around a little bit. And I'm also going to wet this background a little bit more. Add a little bit more yellow. And what's great about these colors is that you can go on top of them and they just blend. You're going to be making new colors that you didn't even realize that you could make. So I'm going to go back and maybe even add a little bit of magenta. And make sure you don't lift up your painting. So it doesn't take too long to dry, but you want to make sure that you don't let it drip. And then you could go rework the edges a little bit to make it thicker, to go over some if you went over outside the line a little bit with a Sharpie when it's dry. And I will show you the exterior one next.